G'day and welcome to TruckThat number 5. It's been a terrible couple of weeks on the roads. There's been some major crashes. We're here in my hometown of Dubbo. There was a major incident just north of here recently, and there's been a lot of press. Some of it has actually recognised some of our issues. A lot of it, as per usual, of course, has been about knee-jerk reactions, about blaming us for these incidents, and about what is going to be done. Now, there's a letter out from the CEO of Toll. He's come up with 6 ideas. He wrote it to the Prime Minister and our transport industry ministers. He got on the news. He got his views out there, and look, he's the CEO of our biggest transport company. He says that as part of the letter, and one of the things he virtually says is, well, because we're the biggest, we should be included. A couple of the things in his 6 points I agree with. Certainly I think his number 3 is about education of car drivers. That's something I've been pushing for many years. He talks about giving incentives to those with better fleets to have more safety things fitted, to encourage the uptake of those technologies. Now again, if you're a big company, you're buying things that are damn sight cheaper than the little bloke. So how's the little bloke going to compete? How's he going to be able to afford to adopt those technologies? They want national regs. Yes, I think we're damn sight closer than we've ever been to having national regs. Yes, there are still 2 states not in it, but geez, we've come a long way. Doesn't mean we can't go further. They're talking about an operator licensing system. Again, fine for a big multinational company that has all of those things in place. And if they're then going to restrict little people from coming into the industry, and I don't think there's no reason we shouldn't have some sort of a floor. There should be some sort of point where you've got to meet certain standards. But if they bring it in forced from the top down, then I think we're going to be excluding people out of the industry, and all that does is make it easier for the bigger fellas. One of the things they suggest is mandatory telematics. Now again, it's fine if you have the capacity to monitor that, if you have a fleet that has the size and the people to deal with it, but does that mean everybody should have one? Now they've just come in America, electronic onboard recording became mandatory on all Class 8 trucks in December last year. They are already having people chasing exemptions for this and for that, for hire companies, for livestock, for agriculture, and at the moment it's all a new process. But look, my view generally is that if those things come in, they take away our flexibility. Years ago, blokes drove when they were fit, slept when they were tired. They might have made their logbook match that. You can't do that now, and some blokes I've spoken to said, look, I've done it for 30 years, I've never had a major accident, and I'm struggling more now than I ever have to be compliant. Now, if you bring in an EWD under our current rules, and the penalties are harsh, and I'm sure that many of you are aware that chain of responsibility is coming in July, and that's going to make them even harsher. And yes, you'll hear the comment on the UHF. Well, if you haven't done anything bloody wrong, you've got nothing to hide, you'll be right. But how many of us are that perfect? So, to follow up for this week, there was an industry meeting with the New South Wales Transport Minister, Melinda Pavey, and I'm sure you've all, that's when I'm getting the electric shock up the bum she thinks that we should all get. Now, it'd be good if the politicians got that, maybe we'd get some more done. But they've been at the meeting, and I've just read a very pertinent comment. Some of you may know of Steve Shearer from SARTA, the South Australian Road Transport Association, and he's the only one I've read that has said, well, if New South Wales has got it wrong, and we're the only state with the increase, and again, let's have the true facts, how many of us were involved and how many of us were responsible for that increase, then why should all the other states follow us when we're getting it wrong? Now, no one else has said that. All the industry, the Australian Logistics Council, I've got to say Ben Maguire from the ATA got on the drum, and he did push rest areas for us, and he did push the fact that we are not responsible for the vast majority of those crashes, and that was terrific press. But you and I both know, and one of the things that Toll completely ignored on that letter was the lack of rest areas, the lack of flexibility, and it's all well and good for them to say, these are the things we want done, but where do we get a say? Where do we get a chance to have that say? We're going to have a break. We'll come back and tell you all about the 7:30 report coming for a trip in the truck tomorrow. Welcome back to TruckThat number 5. We're looking at a tragic week on the road and what we can do to solve the problems. Now, we mentioned the fact that there has been consultation. The New South Wales Minister had the ATA and the ALC in. We've spoken of the letter put out by the CEO of Toll and his 6 points. Now, I of course wrote up my own list of 6 points. It started off with driver education, particularly when we are not responsible for the vast majority of accidents, and that got good press during the week. The next thing is rest areas. We simply don't have enough. How do you manage fatigue? And that was completely overlooked by Toll. There are other issues, and we certainly want your input, because if we don't have a suitable voice, and if we don't have a sufficient voice, one truck driver rallying against the list put out by the CEO of Toll is not even going to get heard in all the noise that goes on from what happens around those crashes. Now, there were people killed in those incidents. We really feel for those families, and we don't want it to happen again. But what can be done, and if only those people at the top of those associations have a say, will they get the right results? I don't believe so. So I put out my list of 6. I doubt I'm going to get it to the Prime Minister. I doubt it's going to get the same coverage. What do we do? How do we change that? You can have input to that. Now, we've spoken before of submissions and input to government. When they call for it, that's one thing. But when these sorts of incidents occur, if you all sit back and wait for someone else to solve the problem, you and I both know it's simply not going to happen. Now, I got approached. I was on ABC News last week, and as of tomorrow, we will have the 7:30 report coming to do a trip in the truck, running from Dubbo up to Toowoomba. We're hoping to put out a whole range of views. We want them to understand our issues. We hope and ask that they will portray us fairly, and that those things that we want action on can at least get recognised by the authorities. So we'll be doing an interview with Julia. She's the host. We've got a sound man and a cameraman. They're going to follow in a car up to Toowoomba, and all we can do is put out a view. Now, you and I both know that those people that set up a lot of the shows, they look for that antagonistic or that promotionalist angle, and they generally don't look after us. We're seeking a fair go this time, but you can help. You can, if you hear a TV show or a radio show and you believe that they're bagging us out, let us know. We can follow up, we can ask for an interview, we can ask to come back with a response. If you see something in print that you believe is one-sided, write to the paper yourself. If you're not confident, let us know. We will have a go. The ATA has a very big role to play in this. They are our peak industry body. They've done a good job. I've spoken to Ben Maguire, and at this stage, we're looking forward to him doing a trip in the truck next month. And we hope to get those views through him out to other media. But if you can write to us, tell us what you think. If you write to your local paper and put your view forward, don't sit back on your backside and let them all throw mud at us, because you know what'll happen? It'll stick. Then all these people will come up with these ideas. They will come up with such a brilliant thing that makes our life absolutely hell on the road. They are then seen to be doing something. They think it's going to help, but you and I both know it won't solve the problem. G'day and welcome back. I apologise for a bit of road noise and a bit of rumbling. It's not my stomach, I'm a bit hungry, but we've got a bit of a thunderstorm going on around here. The list of 6 that I put out, I want to quickly go through that. I mentioned number 1 is driver education. They blame us for the accidents, and yet we do not teach young people how to share the road with trucks. Those of you with kids, have your kids been taught anything at the time of licensing? Did their instructor teach them anything about trucks? You will have, surely, I hope you bloody have. But if you've gone to an instructor, have they ever been a truck? Have they got a clue? If we don't teach them, it's too late to learn when you get run over by a truck. We all know that. We've got to do something about that. Number 2 was roads. Again, completely left out of Toll's list. They didn't mention the irregularities in the road that cause damage to the trucks, damage to the driver, damage to the road. Yes, some of our road system is really good. Pacific will be probably better than the Hume when it's finished. And I must give a quick thank you to Vic Roads. They've finally done the Eries Road section northbound after 4 years. I only get 7 out of 10 though, because it's still got a couple of dips in it, but it's a vast improvement. Every one of those we get rid of is one less hazard on the road. Number 3, rest areas, I spoke of that. The green reflectors as an interim. There are not enough rest areas. On that piece with the drum, when Ben Maguire was talking to the fellow there, the bloke said, he said, don't all the drivers sleep in their trucks? Yes, of course. What are you going to do, sleep on the road? But he had no idea that we need shade, that we need separation, that we need the ability, if you need to have a decent 7-hour break instead of having a stock crate on one side, a fridge van on the other side, or a bloke every 15 minutes slamming the door to go to the loo. How do we get that done? We won't get it done if we don't get listened to, and if told, because they have a lot of blokes on shuttle, don't even consider it, well then what are the authorities going to say? It's not important. Number 4, and I've got to check my list here because I'm not sure, is fatigue regs. So again, we need to be heard. We agree there must be some set of rules. There must be somewhere to start. We don't want anybody on the road when they're tired, whether they're a truck driver or a caravaner or anybody else. Now the caravanners, they can pull up anywhere. A car driver can pull up on a shoulder and have 15 minutes. Can you do that in a loaded B-double without the thing sliding off into the mud in this sort of weather? No, of course you can't. If we don't have the rest areas, you can't manage your fatigue. Then, number 5 is going on to national rules. Yes, closer than we have, but again, we need some flexibility in those rules. You've got the Australian Logistics Council again asking for mandatory telematics. Now, it's all well and good for some bloke sitting in an office who has a toilet on every floor, has food, everything. Is he going to be monitored to the second? No. Now, on the positive side, I had a meeting with NHVR during the week. We've asked you to put in submissions on the EWD proposals. They're coming up. They must be in by the 30th of January. So if you haven't got it done by the time you've heard this, you've missed out. But if we don't have a say, I put them in a submission. I had a phone call within 2 days. Wanted to talk to me. I've been in and had 2 hours discussion with them in Brisbane. There are some points still to clarify. I think we will get heard, and hopefully more people will put submissions in that help and get that up, and we get a fair go out of it. My understanding is that personal use, thank you to all those that took the time, that will be announced on the 1st of February, and I hope you'll be satisfied. A couple of things can't change. The same with the submission on EWDs. I ask they recognise any time from 10 minutes on as a break. They can't do that because that's in the law. The NHVR cannot change the law, but they can change how the law is read and how it is policed, and we hope that we will get a fair go there. So last on the list, number 6, is driver input. It's all well and good for Toll to say they're the biggest, they want to have a say, that's fine. They have the opportunity to get out there and have their say, but if you don't, then we won't get a result. Now, you can sit back and hope someone else will do it. If you're in an association, and we certainly recommend that you take part in associations, you join up, you have a say, but you've got to get in there and have a go. And one bloke can't do it on his own. Now with what's gone on, we approached the local police in Dubbo, went to the commander, and he came back to me and said, look, he was very interested, appreciated what we were trying to achieve, but he had something on, he apologised. I followed the chain of command down to the Highway Patrol. Again, on our part, it was short notice, but we did try, we didn't have any success, and that's one of the reasons we do this. We want to have input from those people, we want another perspective from them, and we want their help to help us achieve those gains. They see things in a different light, they may pick up something that we're not aware of, and we hope to do more of that in the future. We'll be back soon. G'day and welcome to TruckThat. We're here with Julia Holman from the ABC 7:30 report, and she's come along to do a trip from Dubbo up to Toowoomba. G'day Julie, how are you?
G'day Rod, very excited.
Mate, have you ever been in a truck before?
Not one this size.
Right. And what's your perceptions of the industry? Like we're doing this because there's been a number of incidents. What do you see as a normal car driver of trucks?
I see a truck as something that I want to get in front of as quickly as possible because usually they're going a little bit slower than me on the highway, but I know now from talking with you, I should be very careful when I do that.
Yes. And what do you think? It's all set up. You're coming along, we're going to look at rest areas, we're going to look at other people and hope no one does anything stupid.
Yep.
And we hope that you can help us make the road safer. What's the one thing that you have learned of the industry so far? You've done some research, obviously, with what's gone on. What have you learned that might be an outsider's perspective for us to look at?
Well, I guess, from my perspective, it was just really interesting looking at the statistics around the country and see the numbers of, fatal road crashes that involve trucks. That's actually trending down and has been for many years. So that was really interesting. And then to read that a lot of the crashes that involve trucks are not found to be the fault of the truck driver, but other circumstances, other drivers or other circumstances. So that was eye-opening because trucks are big and they look menacing if you're in a small car beside them. So people have a perception when they see it go down the highway, but obviously it's a more complicated story.
Yeah. So as someone in the media who you've heard me speak that unfortunately a lot of the time it's a truck crash and we're guilty by default. When you heard those figures, did you believe them? Did you sort of think, geez, that's different?
Yeah, I certainly thought it was different because it's different to the initial reaction that you feel. But I guess it makes sense in a way because truck drivers are professional drivers, so they've got a lot more experience than most people just driving down the highway. So, but this is not obviously to put blame on people who find themselves in an accident. We don't know all the circumstances, particularly the ones that have happened recently. But I guess there just needs to be a lot more care and a lot more respect.
Yes.
Especially to truck drivers, but from everyone on the road.
Yeah, and our view is if you respect the size and weight of trucks, then you improve road safety for all. Do you agree that we don't teach people? Like when you got your licence, were you ever taught anything about trucks?
I was 16 and I don't even remember. I don't even remember what I learned. So maybe I learned about trucks, but if I did, I've completely forgotten about it.
And a lot of people I talk to don't. There is nothing in the handbooks. There is very little information, and that's something that we want your help to push because we don't want people to learn by default. When they do something silly, there's an accident, somebody dies, and of course, look, there are drivers out there who get involved in those tragic things and they never go back to work. They don't want to see it, and there's been some terrible things happen. How do you solve that? We have education, we have understanding, and hopefully we get people to respect the size and weight of trucks.
And we're very lucky to be going into the cab with you because it's a perspective that we don't have ourselves. Our cameras are going to be in there too, so we'll be able to see it and share some of it. Not the whole 10 or however many hours journey.
You'll get bored with me by then.
I won't get bored, but I can't vouch for all our viewers. But it'll be we'll try to condense the essence of what we see and just to show the most important points that people should take away.
Well, we look forward to your feedback after the trip, and thanks for coming along.
Thanks.
Cheers. Till next month, we want to hear from you. We want your solutions. We want your input. We want you to help share what we're doing. Put it out through your groups, through your associations. Subscribe to the channel and help us to help you. Till next time, safe travelling.